Welcome to A Moment of Zen. Time to sit back and relax as model, actress, mentor, and supermom Zen Sams takes you on a sexy and wild ride, covering the latest in film, fashion, pop culture, politics, and entertainment from the millennial mom's perspective. Here's your host, Zen Sams.
Hello, my beautiful friends and loyal listeners. It's always a pleasure to spend my time with you on the airwaves. Thank you for listening and interacting with me on social media. That does truly make it all worthwhile. Please make sure to follow me at Zen Sams. That's Zen with an X. We have a great show lined up for you today. As usual, a mix of celebrities, impressive citizens, VIPs, and tons of fun. Today's guests are quite impressive. On my Fashion World segment, I'm very excited to be chatting with Rudy Bundini, a male mega model and Instagram star. He is living proof that the American dream is alive and very much kicking. The Switzerland native came to New York with 2 bags and a bit of ambition and soon ended up on a billboard in Times Square with 2.8 million devoted Insta followers around the world. We're going to hear his story soon. Following that, we have My Healthy Minutes brought to you by Aikido Pharma featuring Dr. Suchie Chawla. We're going to be chatting about the bias against women in the maxillofacial surgery field, and then my big reveal. I'll be talking about my incredible comeback story after my facial trauma in 2012 with Dr. Suchie, and more exciting stuff. We also have a new sponsor on board, A Moment of Zen. Congrats to Caldwell Soames for joining the 710 WOR iHeart lineup. I'm going to be chatting with Paul Caldwell. He's chairman and CEO of Caldwell Soames. We're going to be reviewing the original 2 Digital Corporation. This NFT platform called OG2G connects passionate fans with 100% authenticated and original NFT collectibles. It's the safest and most secure way possible. Extremely impressive stuff. Most of the companies in the Caldwell Soames portfolio are quite impressive, to say the least. These companies are at the forefront and cusp of our digital transformation, revolutionizing the industry. OGPay.com and OG2D.com. Now, before we bring on Rudy Bundini, here are a few did you know facts that are almost hard to believe. Did you know facts are everywhere, and you might start to hear some over and over again. On the back of a Snapple cap or something, yeah, you know that Napoleon wasn't really that short and that frogs don't drink. But for your brain food pleasure, here's some of did you know facts that probably you've never heard before. Did you know before 1920, some people used to send children in the mail? Because postage was cheaper than a train ticket. According to the Smithsonian, some frugal parents chose this option. Newspapers ran amusing headlines such as Baby by Parcel Post and Parcel Post Baby Makes Trip along L&E Railroad. Of course, it's forbidden today, but that's definitely among the craziest things people have ever shipped. Did you know each insect is a host to 10 bacterial species? There are around 2 billion species on Earth, with 6.8 million likely to be species of insects, and up to 10 types of bacteria lives inside of each one of those insects. Did you know Meghan Markle and Prince Harry are incredibly distant cousins? The old wives' tale that we're attracted to people who look like our parents may be dateable, but the Duke and Duchess of Sussex share more than just a marriage. Apparently, they share an ancestor dating 15 generations back, but they're not the first royals to be married and related. Did you know strings for instruments were made from animals? These strings of string instruments were originally made from the guts of animals like sheep and lambs. Now, instrument makers have transitioned to metal wiring, but before metal, it was common for all string instruments to be made from the guts of the animal, geographically available to the maker. Ew. And did you know 40% of human jobs could be replaced by AI in the future? In about 20 years, the future could look eerily similar to Wall-E. Artificial intelligence expert Kai-Fu Lee said that 40% of human jobs could be replaced by equally capable robots, and drivers might be affected the most. Well, the Did You Know segment really tops off some of my favorites. We'll be right back after this with fashion model Rudy Bundini. You're listening to A Moment of Zen right here on 710 WR, the voice of New York. We'll be right back.
A Moment of Zen is brought to you by Ocean Resort Casino in Atlantic City, Tempest, Aikido Pharma, Caldwell Soames, BJ Cucina in Midtown and Soho, Revere Securities, Helen Yarmack International, and Romulus Entertainment. Tune in every Saturday night at 9 p.m. on 710 WOR, the voice of New York, or download the iHeart app. Text the word collaborations to 917-575-2321. Follow Zen on social media at ZenSams. That's Zen with an X.
Welcome back, beautiful people. You're listening to A Moment of Zen right here on 710 WR, the voice of New York. I'm your host, Zen Sams. Now, today's most influential male models aren't so much seen and not heard. They're seen, heard, and then some. Rather than simply wearing the latest fashion trends, they are setting them and even designing them, making canny sidesteps into business ventures and turning their God-given cheekbones into social media clout and real-world capital. I'm a model, you know what I mean, and I do my little turn on the catwalk. Right, said Fred Sang. Remember that? Nipples front and center in a black mesh t-shirt in 1991. Well, in most recent years, there's been a seismic shift in attitudes. Not only has male modeling begun to match the status and acclaim female modeling has held since the 1980s, thanks to names like David Gandy, Tyson Beckford, and Sean O'Pride becoming celebrities, it is also increasingly seen and desirable work. And the emphasis is on work, as well as now being considered a legit career. There's also a wider understanding of what being a male model entails. It's a life choice and one that takes plenty of discipline. Days in the gym, eating properly, avoiding the booze before a shoot, and whatnot. It isn't just turning up and taking a nice photo. Contrary to a lot of public perception, the necessary qualities are much more inevitable than seemingly being classically good looking. Yes, you typically need to be tall and have good bone structure, but the dynamic of how to become a male model is always changing and no longer ends at being able to outpout Ben Stiller. Now, joining me in just a sec is model and Instagram star Rudy Bundini. He's living proof that the American dream is alive and very much kicking. The Switzerland native came to New York with 2 bags and a bit of ambition and soon ended up on a billboard in Times Square with 2.8 million devoted Insta followers around the world. Not impressive enough? Well, he's also a former boxing heavyweight champion. He has modeled for Nike, Armani, Versace, and Calvin Klein. I'm not going to keep you guessing anymore. Welcome to the show, stunning man.
Thanks for having me. This is Rudy Bundini, and I'm glad to be a part of your show.
Without a doubt, you guys have to check him out on Instagram at Rudy Bundini, just to have a quick glimpse of all of his incredible photos. But can you tell the world how you went from boxing to modeling?
Oh, that was quite on a journey. So at the beginning, while I was studying, I started boxing a while back, and then that was my only dream to participate in Olympic. And in one of the pre-qualifying matches for London Olympic game, I got injured, and that was a very dramatic moment in my life because I had to say goodbye to my dream. And quite frankly, I had no other plan and no other plan B, and I was devastated. And so I had to find another way, another reason, and another goal for my life. And I have been doing modeling as a side job while I was boxing, but I was not focused on it. But after this happened, and after the incident that it caused a shoulder injury, I had to merge into another path, and fashion became my main passion and also what I focused more on, and it turned into my full-time job.
What a transition. I mean, to go from not knowing what you're going to do with your life to having close to 3 million followers on Instagram. Tell me how you built that following, because that's not just your average, influencer.
Well, there are a lot of different elements that can be helpful. During COVID, including during COVID, I started doing live streams and also working with other influencers from around the world, including I did a live with Snoop Dogg and other celebrities, and that was a boost. It's kind of sharing a pot of followers with each other. Also, there has been other campaigns that I've done, and the magazine covers the Times Square billboard that you indicated. They all has been helpful to engage people with my social media platform, and I'm grateful for everybody who has been a part of it and helped me in this path.
So Rudy, let me understand this. It's a combination of being on billboards. It's a combination of really kind of trending on social media and allowing people to see a glimpse of your life. But let's be honest, the pictures that get the most likes and the most attention are some of the racier ones where you're wearing barely nothing. what what is the difference between the status between a photo and where you're very underclothed versus a photo where you are very clothed? Is there a big difference in likes?
In the engagement, it definitely is. So whenever I post, as you've noticed, whenever I post something that it is on the brochures editorial, that usually gets the highest engagement, and everybody gets uh, the highest. It usually get people more engaged.
More engaged. Yeah,
Um,
when they see you half naked, of course. Yeah, that would be right. But here's the funny part. You take pride in your body and you take care of your body. And I feel like when I look at your images, they are like pieces of art to me. I'm legitimately, guys, you have to check him out on Instagram. His photos are very classy. They're not tasteless. They embody a lot of art. You've worked with top photographers around the world. I remember when I was signed to Elite New York, I had shot with Patrick Demarchelier, Antoine Verglas, Santi D'Orazio, a lot of them, a lot of the greats. And uh, one thing I drew is the conclusion was that after every photo shoot, I learned something new creatively from the teams that I work. There's a lot of hair, makeup. There's a lot of preparation. What kind of preparation specifically do you undergo in terms of preparing for a body shoot? Because those of you who have not checked Rudy Bundini out, when you do, you'll see that he's very athletic. He does embody everything that your perfect body looks like in terms of the cuts and the builds. But tell me what your regiment looks like in terms of preparing and nutrition.
so being said about this is like when I say full time, it's because it's full time. Because most of people, they just see the result of your shoot, which is the 2 hours or 3 hours being on set, and that would actually lead to the final result. But in order for you to create that, it requires a full time work. It requires from morning that you stay focused and disciplined from your diet, and also your workout routine. It's a whole daily schedule and routine that you have to do daily, and it requires a lot of sacrifices for sure. And I'm grateful that I have been able to get this. But being said, I just posted a post that I showed my worst physique that I've been at, and I wanted to share it with people that it's not something ideal that models are always in shape. I wanted to show them that in reality, if we get out of focus, if we want to enjoy life, and if we go towards sugar, carbohydrate, this would happen. And it's just something that is as a consequences of your actions. It just happens, and it's not because that person has a better gene. And it's actually pretty rough business to work in, because it's very compatible.
It's very rough. Bringing me to, here's what I want to ask you. All right, well, I want to do some Q&A and some cool like questions that I want to ask you. But talking about the roughness of the industry. Now, you're living in New York City. You're modeling full time. You're an influencer. You have tons of followers. You're very popular. What does it feel like to now tell yourself that your entire career and existence is predicated about you being in the public eye forever? Because there's no going back now, unless, of course, you retreated and did something completely different.
Well, working in a compatible lifestyle is something that I've been used to, as I used to be in national team. Um, I was in heavyweight and then super heavyweight at boxing national team. So that was always competing, against a lot of things that are out there with other competitors, with yourself, with diet, with nutrition, with lifestyle, with workout. So being working in a competitive and compatible industry is something that I get used to over the years. And
So being in the public eye doesn't really phase you. I mean, it's something that you've done, you do it flawlessly, and clearly you are actually a very humble individual from what I've heard, from how we've interacted over the last week, especially over this organization, Orphan Myth, that I'm involving you in. I've seen your willingness to just give and give back, which for me as a mom, as an artist myself, as a friend to many, I immediately thought to myself, wow, this person is more giving than the average with respect to when I asked you to help a lending hand. So take my hat off to you for that. Now, I want to ask you some cool questions because we have about 3.5 minutes left. And I'm going to kind of run down the list. But what I want you to do is just give me a single answer. Okay. It's just going to be one answer. Okay, here we go. Favorite color?
Black.
Favorite clothing brand?
Philip Klein.
Blondes or brunettes?
Oh. Can I?
Okay. Both. Okay. Favorite place in the world?
New York.
Where do you want to retire?
Miami.
Oh, you didn't seem sure about that one. Try again.
Miami.
Yeah. Okay. Who is your childhood crush? It could be a celebrity or a local favorite.
My teacher.
Yeah. That's amazing. What's your favorite? Wait, your first grade teacher? Like which teacher?
I was in third grade. I was like 9 years old, and I had a teacher, and she was coming to our class, and she was my biggest
crush.
Oh my God! I always was looking at.
I love that. All right, all right. Favorite movie?
$1 Million Baby.
Religious or spiritual?
Spiritual.
Left or right?
Middle.
Favorite sport?
Boxing.
You can't say boxing. Stop. Go back.
Okay, swimming.
Swimming. Longest relationship?
What is it?
The longest relationship you've had?
Well, maybe like around like 7-8 years.
Oh, 7-8 years. That's impressive. Kids or no kids?
No kids.
Weed or alcohol?
No alcohol.
Good answer. Madonna or Boy George?
What is it?
Madonna or Boy George?
Madonna.
Woohoo! We almost had the same answers for everything except your teacher who was your crush. I had like Mark Wahlberg or something. But it was so...
Well, it's like example for with I was at her house, at Madonna's house for New Year Eve, and she has been such a phenomenal individual, and she is really inspirational. And with my childhood crush, she was the person I was always seeing. You know, my teacher was. So
yeah, for sure. No, listen, I know what it's like. I know what it's like. You know, you have somebody there, you look up to them, they're the sweetest person in the world. Next thing you know, your teacher's your crush. It happens all the time. Now, 36 seconds. And I'm going to say, thank you so much for coming on the show. It was amazing talking to you. You are so much fun. Will you come back and join me again?
It would be a pleasure. Thanks for having me. And you are incredible. And I'm really grateful for everything you're doing, and especially involving in charity and with these great causes that you're involving me with it too. Thank you.
Oh, without a doubt. You know, thank you, because it's people and friends like you and celebrities like you that keep me going. Guys, that was Rudy Bundini. Check him out at Rudy, RUDYBUNDINI on Instagram, and definitely leave a comment on his page if you heard him here. You're listening to A Moment of Zen right here on 710 WR, the voice of New York. We'll be right back after this.
A Moment of Zen is brought to you by Ocean Resort Casino in Atlantic City, Tempest, Aikido Pharma, Caldwell Soames, BJ Cucina in Midtown and Soho, Revere Securities, Helen Yarmack International, and Romulus Entertainment. Tune in every Saturday night at 9 p.m. on 710 WOR, the voice of New York, or download the iHeart app. Text the word collaborations to 917-575-2321. Follow Zen on social media at ZenSams. That's Zen with an X.
Welcome back, beautiful people. You're listening to A Moment of Zen right here on 710 WOR, the voice of New York. I am your host, Zen Sams. Now, coming up in just a few, we have Paul Caldwell, Chairman and CEO of Caldwell Soames in Houston, Texas. Now, the firm has specialized since 1992 in strategic advisory, transaction advisory, and since 1998 has managed two private equity funds. One fund is a publicly traded enterprise fund, and the other is a private enterprise fund with a focus on investing in well-managed, transformative businesses. Now, today, Paul and I are going to be chatting about two of the companies outperforming in his portfolios. They are innovative and on the cusp of doing great things, revolutionizing their respective market and taking profitability to the next level. We're going to be looking at the original two digital corporations, otherwise known as OG2D. And if you go to www.og2d.com, you're going to discover a platform that connects passionate fans with 100% authenticated and original NFT collectibles in art, entertainment, and memorabilia. Now, the platform was created to bring together diehard creators and collectors to buy, sell, and trade 100% original art that is in a unified and secure ecosystem. And I'd love to hear it firsthand from the man himself. Welcome to the show, Paul. Doing great, doing great. Now, these are very interesting companies here, and I'm very proud to announce that you are chairman of Caldwell Soames, and these companies reside within your portfolio. Now, OG2D is quite unique. Firstly, I wanted to kind of introduce the carbon neutral NFT topic to the world because I know that that's something that you guys pride yourself on. Do you want to give us a little bit more info about carbon neutral NFT and how it's comparative to what you guys are doing on the platform?
Sure. Carbon neutral in general has never been a very important topic to me personally from an investment point of view. I really never understood it. But also now, one thing that's happening around the world is you have governments like in Europe, for example, legislating carbon neutrality for companies in the consumer product space and so on and so forth, pretty much full circle. And companies that are not carbon neutral or moving towards carbon neutral with an effective certified plan will be being taxed at higher rates because they're in business in Europe, for example, and they don't have that carbon neutrality. That's the one thing. And then as I got to understand it more, and you really look at cryptocurrencies, for example, anytime something's done with a cryptocurrency, a buy, a sell, a send, a receive, there are costs that go along with this, and different cryptocurrencies have different costs associated. In the NFT space, these are non-fungible tokens that are being minted by NFT marketplaces or by people that use the NFT marketplace to sell and buy and trade their NFTs. OG2D, we found it an interesting addie to our portfolio with Original Digital Corporation because their take on the whole business was quite different than anything we saw out there. And we're really looking for things that are transformative opportunities, companies, businesses that are well managed. First of all, that's a really keystone component, an important component for us in the first place. But then also that aren't just innovative, they're not just disruptive upwardly or otherwise, but they're transformative. And in other words, they transform how people think about things that they do that are important to them.
That sounds brilliant, but
neutrality is important.
And exactly that. That sounds so interesting. And let's go back to that carbon neutrality. Now, the average NFT creation produces a carbon footprint of over 200 kilograms, and that's equal to driving 500 miles. But since these particular ones are built on Algorand, each NFT created on OG2D offsets virtually untraceable emissions. Now, for those unfamiliar, I'm just going to address the audience. Algorand is a decentralized blockchain technology network with its native currency being known as Algo, ALGO. And according to Coin Market Cap, Algorand is the 34th largest cryptocurrency in terms of market cap, the total value of all the coins or tokens on the network. So this is quite interesting, and it's going to parlay into why this matters in the bigger picture in terms of Algorand that offers highly competitive fees. Do you want to walk us? They offer highly competitive fees of around 10 cents per NFT minted versus other blockchains can cost up to like $1,000. So tell us a bit more about this Algorand.
Yeah, Algorand's been a great partner strategically for us as an alternative blockchain. So for OG2D, OG2D is the first NFT marketplace to successfully mint NFTs on Algorand. It's the cost. The cost is one thing. Carbon neutrality
That's
is
another. Yeah,
it's 10 times more efficient in some cases, but overall, comparing it to Ethereum, for example, 100 times more efficient to mint and to transact using Algorand blockchain for the NFTs that OG2D is minting. And an important component to that too is that there's a process that goes into this whole NFT minting, NFT sale, NFT listing process. It needs to be as efficient as and effective as possible. It also needs to be totally decentralized. Many NFT marketplaces are not completely decentralized. There are components of those NFT marketplaces that can break down if vendors go out of business that supply those marketplaces with services, for example, services and things. If they're centralized at their servers, that could go down. And if that goes down, you wake up and you don't have access to your NFT anymore. But having it fully decentralized through a DAO structure and so forth. OG2Ds, we're just super enthusiastic in our portfolio for a bunch of reasons.
Without a doubt. And when you look at these companies, of course, you look under the hood and you see that they're not only very innovative and entrepreneurial, and they've taken matters into their own hands in the digital process, but they make a positive impact every time you support artists and creators specifically, which I love about this OG2D is a percentage of every transaction goes towards supporting worthy causes around the world. So it's great to have companies that are also giving back. And then when we talk about companies, let's parlay this very nicely into OGPay.com. Now, OGPay is basically money management transformed in simple terms. And they've devised a system that is high value, secure, and really cost efficient. A new way to basically use your money around town and around the world, where you can, to my understanding, send and receive money globally for free. Now, people love free. You could pay for goods and services in person or online. You could pay your bills. You could sell digital currencies like Bitcoin, Ethereum, and so much more. And they have, and this is what actually caught my attention, a multilingual, multi-currency platform that has you up and running in minutes. But the multilingual was extremely important because, I have a lot of relatives that are not fluent in English, but are in other areas of the world. And that is a huge plus. So kudos to you for another great find, Paul. This OGPay mobile wallet is incredible. Tell me more about it.
Well, Zen, we started with that company. We started in the fintech space in 2016 and in the funds in our portfolios, and looking at and investing in early stage fintech related, crypto related and enterprises. But we're not early stage, we're not venture. So there weren't many to look at really that had enough maturity for us to get excited about it. The OGPay team has been in development since 2017, and the core technology for years prior to that. So we got enthusiastic about the proven capacity of the core technology. We got really excited though when we realized that we could build interoperability layers. They could build these layers of interoperability using today's modern technologies to create a decentralized finance-oriented fintech solution that would make people, hey, it's a big question, right? Why would anybody want to put another app on their phone? Think about your phone. How busy is it? You have your banking app, probably your investment app. You have your
I was
your
just
other apps.
deleting apps just before I was deleting apps and making space. And I also want to say that you're right. Like, who would want to? But when you look under the hood and you look at a company like OGPay, it's FDIC insured, which is, for me as a mom, I was like, that's great, because a lot of companies are not. And like you said, this isn't a startup. So keep going. I'm sorry, I interrupted you, but I know that the FDIC insured was a big thing for me, and I think it is for a lot of people to feel safe.
Yeah, I think so too. And the FDIC component is on the fiat side of the business. It's in the mobile wallet. It also addresses the cards, the OGPay virtual and physical Visa card. Also, those accounts are fully FDIC insured. And then the crypto component to the platform also has a private insurance that we put in place to ensure transactions there. But the interoperability to be able to load money on the platform and from anywhere in the world to anywhere, and then send it to anywhere
in real time,
OGPay users in real time with no fees. And then the other opportunity is to really interplay the mobile wallet marry the mobile wallet with a virtual Visa card and a physical Visa card, enabling transactions now to move the money from there to the card. So the card doesn't have to maintain the balances. If someone steals a typical debit card today and they could just press credit and they can cause you all kinds of trouble. That cannot happen at OGPay for many reasons, the security layers and the function of it.
Right, which makes a lot of people feel very comfortable. And on the digital assets portfolio side, it's also important to note that, immediately upon opening your OGPay account, you could begin funding it and start buying and selling cryptocurrencies immediately, right? And of course, this brings us into where the world is headed. We have about 2.5 minutes left. And talking about all this cryptocurrency, we now know that the second largest US mortgage lender is going to accept payment in Bitcoin. And it stands to be said that it's United Wholesale Mortgage, which made its public debut in January via SPAC merger. Really, this is not something that we had heard of over and over again. I mean, this is recent, and they announced plans this week that they're going to accept cryptocurrency for home loans, and it's being billed as a first for the national mortgage industry. What do you say to this, Paul, really quickly, like in under a minute?
I say that I think that's the trend. I think that trend's going to continue. I think as cryptocurrencies become more acceptable, in so much that the marketplace accepts them, but also the regulatory environment continues to mature around cryptocurrencies versus assets. There are STOs that the STO business is backed up now, significantly. And the largest STO underwriter now has like 400 deals in their pipeline, right? It's crazy. But if you really think about the cryptocurrencies and the utilization of them, it's how do you platform the cryptocurrency so Mary Smith's Anywhere USA or Anywhere World can actually use a cryptocurrency to actually transact and buy bread or milk or do real things that she does every day. And that's one of the interoperable solutions. That's one of the things that was solved for with OGPay, is the ability to own that cryptocurrency, but get instant liquidity back into a card or into a mobile wallet, be able to transact that instantly. So
in real time, exactly.
In real time. So liquidity and risk are big deals when it comes to cryptocurrency. Liquidity and risk, two big things.
Okay, guys, so listen, that's Paul Caldwell from Caldwell Soames, and he is full of knowledge. He's definitely going to be coming back on again to talk more about all of these cool companies, cool investments, the amazing portfolios that he's managing, but really being at the forefront of the digital process and really giving it to you guys straight on our segments here. Paul, thank you so much for joining us. It was such a pleasure speaking with you today.
My pleasure, Zen. Thank you. Take care. Have a good day.
Absolutely. You guys are listening to A Moment of Zen right here on 710 WR, the voice of New York. I'm your host, Zen Sams. We'll be right back after this.
A Moment of Zen is brought to you by Ocean Resort Casino in Atlantic City, Tempest, Aikido Pharma, Caldwell Soames, BJ Cucina in Midtown and Soho, Revere Securities, Helen Yarmack International, and Romulus Entertainment. Tune in every Saturday night at 9 p.m. on 710 WOR, the voice of New York, or download the iHeart app. Text the word collaborations to 917-575-2321. Follow Zen on social media at ZenSams. That's Zen with an X.
Welcome back, beautiful people. You're listening to A Moment of Zen right here on 710 WOR, the voice of New York. I am your host, Zen Sams. Now, up next, we have Dr. Suchie Chawla. She's one of the select few oral and maxillofacial surgeons in the NYC area, and she's earned both a dental and a medical degree. Her extensive clinical experience ranges from surgical procedures like wisdom teeth extraction, implants, bone grafting, to more complex conditions involving maxillofacial pathology, facial trauma, and facial reconstructive surgery. She is a dental expert with in-depth knowledge and education in facial anatomy, anesthesiology, and reconstructive surgery. She's been honored by her peers to the super doctors list in sequential years in the field of oral and maxillofacial surgery. And most recently, she has been published in the New York Times Magazine. Today, we're going to be chatting about the bias against women in the oral and maxillofacial surgery field, and my personal reveal on the air about my own facial trauma in 2012 that almost took my vision and forever changed who I am. But first, a big shout out to Aikido Pharma and CEO Anthony Hayes. They have just recently joined the sponsor lineup, and they're going to be debuting every 3 shows with a segment called My Healthy Minutes. Now, Aikido Pharma is an early stage drug development company dedicated to developing new solutions for life-threatening diseases. Aikido Pharma publicly trades on the NASDAQ under ticker symbol AIKI. Now, back to the topic at hand. Bias against women in the oral and maxillofacial surgery field. Regardless of their specialty, if there's one thing that female surgeons know, is that sexism in the surgery field is very common, consequential, and does affect patient care. About 65% of women practicing in the OMFS, otherwise known as what I keep repeating, oral and maxillofacial surgery field, but we're going to stick with OMFS for now, they have experienced some bias against them on the job. Now, this includes frustrations within the practice, claims of sexual harassment, the feeling of having to prove their worth and work twice as hard as their male colleagues, dealing with the good old boys club, and the clear double standard between men and their male colleagues. Gender disparity is especially evident where women are greatly underrepresented here. As of 2019, about only 19% of U.S. surgeons were women. And more specifically, the American Association of Oral and Maxillofacial Surgeons has determined that practicing women make up only 8% of the specialty. Joining me today is trailblazer herself, Dr. Suchie Chawla, and she's going to give us the facts firsthand. Welcome to the show, and please tell me I got your name right.
Hi, thank you so much. Yes, it's Suchie Chawla. Very, very close. As people call me, Dr. C.
Dr. C. Now listen, Dr. C, you are a board certified oral and maxillofacial surgeon, which is a rare combination because you're both a dentist and a physician. And this is quite impressive. What inspired you to want to specifically this field, enter this, it's a very, very niche market.
So I was interested in healthcare sciences since I was in college, and I pursued dental school. Once I was in dental school, I really enjoyed oral maxillofacial surgery, and I really also appreciated it for its combination of medicine and dentistry. And that's why I decided to go into the dual degree program. As we know, we need to treat humans as a whole, we don't just address one issue. So that's what drove me into the profession, and I absolutely love it.
And it's great because you have a beautiful practice on the Upper East Side here in New York City. You deal with wisdom teeth extractions, implants, bone grafting, a whole bunch of stuff. But then you also have that expertise, which really caught my attention specifically for this segment, because I have never really revealed this on air. But back in 2012, I had a terrible trip and fall accident, and that resulted in a terrible facial fracture. And I currently have a metal plate under my orbital and 4 screws down my nasal passage. But that it was kind of, a blessing in disguise, so to speak, because at the time it took me out of my element, but the trauma and really kind of recovering from that helped me kind of really change internally and really see the world in a different way. Can you just give me a little bit of that background when it comes to your studies? It's almost like an art when you patch somebody back up together again, kind of like Humpty Dumpty. Walk us through that.
So, it's interesting. A lot of people don't realize what oral and maxillofacial surgeons really do. Besides, we have very extensive training in facial surgical trauma, facial reconstruction, wisdom teeth, implants. And if you look at it, we truly do treat the patient as a whole. We restore not just the form, but the function as well. A lot of people don't realize you could have cosmetic reconstructive surgery, but if you can't really function, the surgery is a moot point and it doesn't really achieve happiness and content in a patient and satisfaction. So our specialty really is something that looks at form and function as a whole, and hence, in order to be an oral and maxillofacial surgeon, you have to have a DDS degree. You have to go to dental school because otherwise there is a lack in combining both the surgical aspects.
Oh, without a doubt, you have to understand the scope of not just dentistry, but the complex, like you said, that complexity involved in reconstructing the face properly and making sure that everything is all your T's are crossed and I's are dotted, so to speak. But now let's kind of bounce back to this very male-driven field. Now, I remember when I was taking appointments, I very rarely encountered any female surgeons, let alone being able to address my issues as a woman, things that were more important to me that a lot of the male surgeons felt that I shouldn't have to worry about. And I do feel that there is a lot of bias in the industry. What's your perspective as a woman surgeon, as a female surgeon, a trailblazer, so to speak, in your industry? Have you encountered this kind of bias?
So it's interesting, as you quoted, unfortunately, even in 2020, we have less than 10% women in the field. I finished in 2007, so it was a while ago. But of course, clearly, as we know, there is a bias and there remains a bias. And I was told, fortunately, a couple of times, oh, you will have to work 10 times harder to prove yourself. But look at the bright side. It just made me work much harder and get that much better. And it made me appreciate the field more. And like I said, I love it. So it didn't deter me, which also, as a patient, says something to a patient. It says something. It's somebody who truly, truly wanted to do this and takes pride in it. So I think one thing a lot of patients should realize, or general public, is when they see female surgeons, a lot of them stood the test of time and worked hard. So they really, really are doing this because they love it, and we all love the patient aspect of it, especially me. The great thing that has come out of it, I really enjoy my patients. That's the fun part of my day. The most zen part of my day, zen, is when I am operating on a patient. That is my little history.
That's your highlight. So listen, let's talk about these surgeries, right? So I'm going to take the public back a little bit to 2012. Now, separate of not encountering the right surgeons, I did at the end of the day get operated by a male surgeon by the name of Dr. Michael Stewart at Weill Cornell. He was the head of otolaryngology. But of course, it was a lot of the female aftercare that really resonated with me, proper bedside manner. Now, I currently have a lot of work to do with respect to my recovery, in the sense that although this was back in 2012 and everything was done internally, like they literally just flipped my lip. If you can imagine somebody flipping your lip, and everything was done internally, they placed the metal, middle. I healed, but now the tooth in the very back had to be extracted. And that was a tooth that was holding together a bridge. And that bridge was critical to me being able to chew on the left side. So when they extracted just last month that last tooth, that bridge now has nothing to hold itself on. So as you can see, this is not trauma that ended in 2012. This is something that I will forever deal with. What's your advice to somebody in my situation? Meaning now I need an implant there. We don't know if there's enough room for an implant. This is going to be another couple of months out of my life. How do you approach a situation like this, which is rather complicated for the average surgeon to look at this file?
So it's interesting, right? So number one, you have to have knowledge of what the person had done. Number two, we have great tools available to us, like 3D scan. We could do 3D reconstructions and evaluate patients. And there are numerous ways of bone grafting the areas and restoring your form. I'm more than happy to have you come into the office and evaluate you. But at the same time, like I said, it's very, very important for your treating surgeon to really understand the depth of your case. And I'm going to throw it back to you, Zen. I mean, how do you feel? How did this all affect you, not just function-wise, but also mentally? I am sure you are very young. It really, I'm sure, changed your life and changed you forever.
Oh, without a doubt, this forever changed me. I mean, to wake up one day and see your face completely swollen to the point where the swelling didn't really subside for months after the fact, to be handed a pack of, Percocets and Vicodins and be told, you got to deal with it. I immediately did my own research. I resorted to cannabis therapy for a lot of the facial twitches, a lot of the oils and the derma blends that use a combination of THC to CBD, 1-to-1 ratio under, of course, medicinal care. And this helped me a lot, and it helped me not have to use any kind of prescription painkiller, anything that was harsh on your body, but also on your emotional part, because you can get addicted to that kind of stuff when you're going through something so steep. So yes, it did kind of make me feel like I had to take matters into my own hands. And I had a lot of creative doctors around me that helped me deal with a lot of the trauma on an emotional level, so to speak. It was more about having the proper care team, like you said. But what makes me really excited about your practice is that you are like a 3-in-1. So for people that are listening and don't really understand the scope of maxillofacial surgery and the dental industry, is that we're talking to Dr. Suchie Chawla, who is not just a surgeon, maxillofacial, board certified, but she's also a dentist, and she understands the scope of both of these worlds that have to come together. And it makes me feel really comfortable to be able to walk into your office, so to speak, get these 3D scans, be able to evaluate this properly, and also talk to the surgeon that would ultimately be performing this and not have to bounce back with, 2 or 3 different cooks in the kitchen. So I take my hat off to you. That is an incredible resume that you have there. And I would be more than happy to be in your care.
Thank you, Zen. So like I said, the most important thing is picking the right surgeon. Also somebody who has knowledge base that could help you. Also, really be open to various treatment options. I personally think that you should treat people the way you would like to be treated yourself, and think of every patient as your own family. I know it sounds cliche, but that is
no,
really
it's not
true.
cliche at all. Well, thank you so much for joining me. It was great chatting with you. This was like a little therapy session combined with a great conversation. You are incredible. Thank you for everything you do for your patients. And more importantly, I'm going to come visit you.
Thank you.
Guys, you definitely have to check out her website. Her name is Dr. Suchie Chawla. Suchie like Gucci, Dr. Suchie Chawla, DrSuchieChaw. There's the trick, LA.com. We'll be right back after this. You're listening to A Moment of Zen right here on 710 WOR, the voice of New York. I'm your host, Zen Sams.
A Moment of Zen is brought to you by Ocean Resort Casino in Atlantic City, Tempest, Aikido Pharma, Caldwell Soames, BJ Cucina in Midtown and Soho, Revere Securities, Helen Yarmack International, and Romulus Entertainment. Tune in every Saturday night at 9 p.m. on 710 WOR, the voice of New York, or download the iHeart app. Text the word collaborations to 917-575-2321. Follow Zen on social media at ZenSams. That's Zen with an X.
Well, that's almost a wrap, my dear friends. But before I go, I'll leave you with a few things that many Europeans find totally normal, but Americans definitely do not. Here we go. Underage drinking seems like more of a crime in the US, but in most cases, if a kid is caught with alcohol, say in the UK, it's just confiscated and poured away. The age you can drink alcohol in the UK is really low as well. So as long as you're home with a parent, you're good to go. Then in Germany, looking for an apartment doesn't automatically mean it will come with a kitchen. What? Yeah, well, 90% of the time, they don't have kitchens. Then we have paying for bathrooms. Apparently, in Europe, it's a thing. You got to pay to go. How about almost every car is a manual transmission? When I was visiting Europe, I only saw the wealthier people with automatic cars. And again, this doesn't apply to every European country, but prison sentences are a lot shorter. Life in prison without parole is extremely rare, and many countries don't have such sentences. Then we have nudity. Yup, at least in Germany, no one cares if you're naked. No one thinks it's even sexual to be naked unless you're actively having sex, and no one thinks it's weird. Well, in general, it's not an issue in Germany. Now, when I lived in Belgium, here's something else that's interesting. In Luxembourg, voting was mandatory, and you would get fined if you didn't vote during the election. Then we have the kissing greetings. Oh yeah, have you ever been greeted by somebody from Europe? It's not one, not two kisses on the cheek, but even a third one. And how about leaving your baby outside to sleep in the stroller? This is actually very common. Whether you're at home and you leave the baby on the balcony or in the garden, Europeans believe that the fresh air and the soothing sounds of nature keeps babies asleep. Also, the amount of people who still smoke, especially in restaurants in Europe, is staggering. I can't imagine this still happening in America. Nothing like sitting in a beautiful cafe and having someone at the table next to you light up just as your food arrives. Yuck. How about not tipping your server at a restaurant? In Europe, they do not expect you to tip the waiters. And if you do, sometimes it's considered offensive. Songs with swear words are easily broadcasted on the radio, and swear words are not covered with a bleep tone on TV. Yep, no one cares over there. Also, in France, every beach has naked people, and the average person thinks that's totally normal. Some countries in Europe have church taxes. What about that one? The state collects money through the taxation system and hands a slice of it over to the national church and or state-paid clergy. Think about that one. And finally, charging for water at a restaurant. Yup, water ain't free in Europe. Well, that's something to think about. And that's a wrap, my friends. Remember to join me right here on 710 WOR, the voice of New York, every Saturday night from 9 to 10 p.m. Or go to 710WOR.iHeart.com/A Moment of Zen to watch fully uploaded episodes. We are a vodcast, and in Leighton terms, that means a TV podcast. So you can see me as of Monday morning. Remember to tune back in next Saturday night at 9 p.m. Thank you for listening to A Moment of Zen. It's been an absolute pleasure being your host. Thanks again to all of our sponsors.